Testing, testing. Can you guys hear me? Testing. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you guys can hear me. This mic is going out on me. I am working on buying a new one. It's going to be an Elgato Wave 3 mic because the connector that goes into the socket is actually loose. And so periodically, when I jiggle the thing a little bit, it goes out. So I do apologize by that. It's not my fault. If you guys do hear birds in the background, just let me know. Then I'll have to close my window. It's pretty warm in here. It's 76 degrees. What do you know? It's April. Today was not a warm day outside. It was only 57. One of the cooler days that we could have in April. All right, on the side note of that, welcome everybody. I am your host, David Schlotthauer, here in the home weather office here in the Lodi, California area. And in this live discussion briefing, we are keeping an eye. We're going to give you the very latest information on this prolific, urgent tornado outbreak that is anticipated across Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, with a large enhanced risk of severe weather stretching across Kansas, Missouri, those sort of things. We're going to walk city by city on who's going to get the worst impacts, how strong could our tornadoes get, how large will our hail be, and how strong could we get those wind damaging gusts. All right, we'll break down all those details in this live briefing discussion on the severe weather outbreak on Monday. Welcome everybody. It's Monday, April 20, or it's not Monday, it's Saturday, April 26, 2025, and I'm glad and an honor that you guys are here tonight. So let's take a look here at our satellite imagery, and what we have going on right now leading up to this is we have an area of low pressure. This is a pretty good, robust upper level disturbance that is over the Intermountain West. Yeah, we got some thunderstorms today. We got some rain. Yeah, rain in late April here isn't uncommon, but we're getting into the dry season here, and so us getting some rain is actually a good thing. We needed some of that. Kept temperatures down today, kept us out of the 60s. Yeah, just a few days ago, we were in the 80s. Yeah, from the 80s to the 60s, and we're back into the 80s again next week, possibly the low 90s even by the end of the work week. So yeah, we're just bouncing around here. Actually, no, not next week, the week after, because we have another system that's going to be moving in behind this one after that. So yeah, it's going to be a little unsettled around here. And hey, I love a little cooler weather. I'll tell you, I can take a lot of it before we get into the hot season here. A lot of you are probably not excited about that. Anyways, because it's already warm in many areas. So the current satellite does show that there are some showers and thunderstorms, and I do apologize that I have not been around to stream on this. It's just very isolated nature, and it's just the demand is really low. Besides, we have other streamers that are doing it anyway, so like, why stream it? Maybe I will next year. We'll see. But we did have some showers and some thunderstorms today, and we did have quite a few tornado reports. This has been the thing the last few days where we have had some strong tornadoes out of these with boundary interactions along the dry line where we get these thunderstorms that do develop. So that has resulted in some pretty intense thunderstorms. We got some hail that was up to golf ball, even baseball size out of these storms with a lot of energy coming off the golf. That thunderstorm juice helping to feed these storms today. That's nothing with what we will be seeing on Monday, because Monday is going to be a pretty dangerous day nonetheless. And then we got a system that is moving over the northeast right now as we speak. So here's a look at the severe weather outlook. I'm going to show you the broader picture, and then we're going to kind of zoom all in. We're going to zoom in with our binoculars, and we're going to be looking at who is going to be impacted by what. All right, so this is the Monday's outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, and yeah, I expected them to go to moderate. I really did, because of what I'm about to show you. We have a lot of wind shear that we're dealing with here, a lot of instability that's going to compensate for the amount of directional shear that's going to be in place. We got very steep lapse rates that I'll show you here. That is why there is a moderate risk out, because the air mass is going to be extremely unstable. We're looking at extreme instability throughout the Iowa region, the tri-state area of Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, and yeah, might even include a corner there of Illinois, the quad state area. That's about that. This is driven by a 45 significant for severe weather. Now, it's very interesting that there is no moderate risk up here. If you look at the risk here, the significant covers only parts of the 45%. And that makes sense because when you get up to 45 significant, it is deemed significant enough to warrant a moderate risk based on their conversion chart. And then if it's 45 non-sig, it's just a high-level enhanced risk. It's a pretty serious one, and it's only a matter of will they extend that significant risk up here to extend their moderate risk a little further north. I do think they're going to. I really do. And so this moderate risk is going to be it's going to get a little bit bigger, I think, in tonight's outlook. Now, will this go high? I don't think it's going to go high. The coverage and there's still a degree of uncertainty. So I don't see this going high, which is good. We don't want a level 5 out of 5 on this. We've had 2 already this year. We don't want a third one. It's not uncommon, but it's very rare to get 3 high risk days, or 3 of them out of a severe weather season. And at the end of the day, this is late April and into early May, which is about the peak of tornado season. But not for this area. This is pretty far north for late April, and usually we look for it down here in the southern high plains for the highest chances for tornadoes for this time of the year. That's where you would refer to your moderate risks, high risk events. So now let's take a look at a closer zoomed in view. I showed this in my TikTok, which, by the way, if you guys want to check out my TikTok, it is at WeatherSchlotDog 1995. That video, by the way, has almost 70,000 views. So yeah, pretty good. A lot of people liked it. And I'm going to implement this in my live stream. So if you're in Iowa, Mason City, if you're in Waterloo, I'm not going to name every city here because, of course, the pronunciation, you guys say it differently in your area. But Spencer is under an enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5 there. If you're in Correll, you're at a level 3. For Dodge, you're in a moderate risk. Ames now under a moderate risk. Des Moines, Iowa, a really populated area. Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Davenport, Des Moines, Iowa, really popular cities here, okay, in Iowa. And I do have a friend that lives in Iowa City. Actually, no, yeah, it is in Iowa City. Caden Youngquist actually lives right here. He's a storm chaser. Man, if I did not have a dental appointment, yeah, I'm getting a new crown put in my mouth because my tooth is cracked there of the back molar. So I'm going to be dealing with maybe a bit of pain instead of live streaming a severe weather event on Monday. And then after that, I will just not be available, period, at all on Monday, unfortunately. It sucks, but it is what it is. I got to take care of myself sometimes, right? Dubuque there, moderate risk of severe weather. And then when we look at Wisconsin over here, Eau Claire or Eau Claire, something like that. I got some corrections on my TikTok post about that. I think it's Eau Claire. La Crosse in Wisconsin. That's what it is. So it's on the border. So it's half of it is in Minnesota and Wisconsin there under a moderate risk, and Madison right on the border. Portage, moderate risk. Platteville under a moderate risk. Wausau in Wisconsin under enhanced risk. Green Bay Packers under an enhanced risk of severe weather. And then Hayward and Superior under a level 3. And then let's go to, this is Minnesota. Minneapolis, St. Paul, Rochester, Albert Lee, you're under a moderate risk of severe weather. Again, more populated areas here. This is quite impressive to see this. Late in April, again, we don't really see these events really pop off until we get into about June or July, usually with derecho events. But no, this is a tornado outbreak that we're dealing with. Alexandria, if you're in Brainerd, under that enhanced risk. Marshall, if you are in the Worthington area, under an enhanced risk, a level 3 out of 5. Let's go to other cities here. Illinois, Rockford. If you're in Moline, under enhanced risk, slight risk down here in Chicago. DeNalb, if you're in Emporia. If you're in Springfield, they actually chewed away at the slight risk a little bit here. Springfield was in it, but now is not. So you're under a marginal risk now, but I would probably not be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they put you all back under a slight risk again. Campaign under a marginal risk. But wow, what a gradient this is. That's the very northwestern tip of Illinois under a moderate risk. And you go down here, there's only a general risk. It's like nothing, no severe weather at all. On Monday, for half of Illinois, or for a portion of it, Carbondale, yeah, quite impressive. So if you're wanting to storm chase in Mount Vernon, good luck with that. This is Missouri. Enhanced risk for St. Joseph, for Memphis. Now, there's a Memphis in Missouri. Kirksville, Maryville in Missouri under that enhanced risk. And good news here is in St. Louis, you're under a marginal risk. Not a big risk at all, unlike what we had in March and early April, where it was just kind of 5150 down here with severe weather. If you don't know what 5150 is, go look it up. It's a code you don't want to hear, right? So that's why I referred it to that. And then, of course, you got Kansas here under enhanced risk of severe weather. So that's for Topeka, for Olathe, if you are in Kansas City. If you are in Coffeyville, that's a slight risk. Wichita, good populated area there, slight risk. Hutchinson, Salina, Pratt, under a slight risk for severe weather. And, oh, I never brought up, or did I bring up? I never brought up Oklahoma. Funny enough, I did not bring that up. Sorry. So Norman, Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, Ponca City, Bartlesville, Tulsa, Altus, Lawton, Elk City, slight risk is out for these areas, and there is a significant risk here. I would not be surprised if confidence increases with model agreement, we may get the enhanced risk a little further south here into Oklahoma City, and that would be driven mainly by a tornado risk as well as a very large hail risk, and we'll explain why that is here in a second and when we get to our model. And then Texas, last but not least on our list here, is for Abilene, for Childress, for Wichita Falls to get a slight risk out of this. Midland under a slight risk of severe weather. And again, right along that dry line, we could have a few isolated intense updrafts, including for Fort Stockton, San Angelo, Del Rio area. Dallas, good news for Monday. No severe weather threat for you, but of course, expect maybe an isolated pop-up storm, especially Monday late afternoon. And then down here in Houston, no storms are expected for right now, but this is the day 3 outlook. As we go to day 1, there'll probably be some little green area down here, but nothing too substantial by all means. Really quickly, Tuesday, it's not just for Tuesday, but it's also for Wednesday. There is a slight risk out. So this is going to be a never-ending thing where we're going to have multiple days here of severe weather. Now, a couple of people out there on X, if you follow anyone, saying that we could have a multiple severe weather outbreak. I do not see that happening right now. I just don't see it. This is not a multi-day severe weather outbreak, because if it was, we would have like 3 moderate risks or greater. And just FYI, moderate risks are reserved for outbreaks. So if it's a tornado outbreak, if it's a derecho kind of thing, or even if it's a large hail threat, rarely hail by itself gets moderately risked at all. I mean, it's usually either tornadoes or wind that drives moderate risks, okay? And so, an enhanced risk is not a severe weather outbreak. It's a severe weather episode instead. And then there's your 45 sig. Okay, so we went through that. Wow, I spent 16 minutes on that outlook. See, if this was in video form, it would be really much more modified. So let's take a look here at our GFS model. This is the 18Z run that just came in. The 0Z is not going to be done for another couple of hours, so it's going to be a while before that comes in. But it's going to be pretty similar to with what we're looking at here. So for Sunday afternoon, we have a surface low that develops here. This is what we call a thermal low because this is the time of the year that the surface heats up sufficiently. Our sun angle is higher over Colorado, so we do tend to get these surface lows that develop more easier, not particularly intense, but what they do, well, if you get a ridge of high or a surface high over here, over the Great Lakes, you're pulling that air around it. So you're bringing that Gulf moisture returning northward out ahead of this surface low that develops over Colorado. And hence is why our dew points are going to be on the increase over the next couple of days. And some of those high dew points could even get into southern Canada. Yeah, there's going to be a decent fetch of moisture that advects northward with this. And so that takes us into Sunday afternoon, where we do get some showers and some thunderstorms here along the dry line. This is what we call a diffuse dry line up here. This is more sharper down here. Kind of follow where the convergence is. It's about right in here, so you're getting flow off the Gulf. That's going to bring in surface dew points in the mid to upper 60s. And then to the west of that dry line, dew points are actually in the 15 to 25 degree range. So there is going to be a very sharp contrast here of rich moisture and rich dry air instead. And that dry line's not really going to go anywhere at all through Monday morning as the surface low continues to develop. Now, once we go into Monday morning, you're going to see a lot of convection here, right? But the good news about this is it's going to be elevated. And how do I know it's elevated is if we click on a sounding over this region, there's an inversion, right? So we have a cap involved here, but really rich moisture that is in place even in the mid-levels of the atmosphere at 3 kilometers. That is why we are going to have elevated instability here. Elevated or high-based convection, similar to monsoonal-like storms, only that these will be severe because of our wind shear profiles that are sufficient there for at least marginal hail and marginal wind damage over the Iowa area. And if you picture this, we have a warm front that is going to be draped somewhere like this. This is pretty much where our warm front is going to be. And then here is going to be our dry line. So our dry line's back here across Texas. And then back over here is where we have our cold front. Over across Montana into Wyoming into, say, western South Dakota. This is a classic severe weather setup here where we have a triple point that is going to be involved here around this surface low. And wherever we get backed winds here locally out ahead of this surface low is where we are going to have the best chances of a strong to intense tornado with any surface-based convection if it can actually materialize before the sun goes down, before we get upscale growth, and in time when the jet stream increases or the low-level jet actually speeds up. And that's what we have here. So by Monday afternoon here, this is around 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time. We have a surface low that is over here. To the south of that, we have convection that is going to try to develop. Now, this doesn't look particularly strong, and that's because it's a GFS model. It's not a really high-res model. Some of the high-res models, by the way, are not doing a really good job at picking this up right now. It's going to be interesting how that evolves over the next 24 to 36 hours, what the SPC will do with ongoing current convective risks, if they have to trim things down, if they have to expand things. That's going to be an interesting aspect to all of this. But this is where the dry line is going to be, right here, anchored across western Texas into western Oklahoma, far eastern Kansas into Iowa, with this bent back occlusion. You can see the deformation here with the pressure gradient, really tight pressure gradient on the back side of this. So we are going to have some pretty intense winds, possibly gusting over 50 to 60 miles an hour on the back side of that low as this moves out to the northeast across the northern Great Lakes. And the ending result here will be showers and thunderstorms. Actually, these do really pop up here in Oklahoma, mainly. For some reason, the GFS not showing much in the way of convection over here where that enhanced risk is, probably due to some thermo problems, maybe a little bit of some convective inhibition that remains in place. But I am pretty confident that there will be enough forcing in close proximity to the surface low that there will be a strong tornado threat, at least a strong tornado threat with an isolated intense tornado with any supercell that becomes established within the boundary layer. That means it becomes surface-based. We ingest surface-based helicity indexes out of the southeasterly direction relative to the storm motion, and that's why we're going to get very intense rotating updrafts because of the directional and speed shear that's involved. And then down here across western Texas, we have a pretty big hail threat that's going to be in place because of the instability, the overlapping of really steep mid-level lapse rates on the order of about 8.5 degrees Celsius. And we'll get to those lapse rates here. And then going forward, we still see some showers and thunderstorms that move through. And then this takes us into Tuesday, where we are still looking at some decent rain shower and thunderstorm activity. Excuse me. And it wouldn't be surprising right in here if they upgrade the risk, because we do have a little bit of southeasterly flow, and then we get winds more out of the southwesterly direction in the mid-level. So there could be a more focal point of tornadoes down here eventually, issued in subsequent outlooks from the Storm Prediction Center, especially when you get the flow like this. And then you got some more severe weather over Indiana, over Ohio. But because of our flow is doing more like this, with the upper level pattern that's doing more like this, this is going to be mainly a wind damage threat and a marginal to slight risk for hail. I'm assuming we could be looking at quarter-size hail out of any of the storms that do develop here in Indiana and the Ohio Valley. That continues, and then we will have to keep an eye on Wednesday next week, and then maybe more after that. So, yeah, it's going to be a little bit of an active week ahead, and then another system coming into California. Like, man, that is a really deep low pressure system in California. I mean, wow, that is really, really, really deep. Yeah, those temperatures are almost 30 degrees below average. Yeah, I guess winter's not over for both the Great Lakes and also for the West. Hey, I can take all the cold weather that we can get right now, because once it heats up, man, this room, my office, my home weather office, can get up to 100 degrees. 100 degrees inside. Can you believe it? Yeah, 100 degrees. Even on a cloudy day, if it's like 80 degrees outside, it'll still get up to 95 degrees because of the sun angle that hits the roof. The angle of attack, that is. That's allowing the roof to heat up. And then all that heat is just absorbed into the thick stucco that I have. In the olden days, that's what they use. They use stucco and also insulation padding to keep things either warm during the wintertime and cool during the summer. But when you're upstairs here on the second floor, it doesn't work that way very well. All right, so what doesn't really work very well is when you have a negatively tilted trough here over the four corners. This is going to be ejecting into the high plains, and this is a look at the 500 millibar vorticity plot, okay? And a simple way to understand what vorticity is, there's spin, okay? And wherever there's spin, you get energy that usually is enveloped within that. So you can see there's a lot of energy right here, divergent flow aloft. So you can see these isobars spreading out like this over the Iowa region, over Minnesota, as well as Wisconsin. And it makes sense. That is why we're going to have convection. We're going to have a severe weather tornado outbreak that's going to be over this region. And I'll tell you my overview on what my thoughts are about this. And I want to hear your guys' thoughts towards the end of this briefing on what you guys think about the hail threat and the damaging wind threat and that, etc. So that's going to move through. And then we have another impulse. So what we have here is a little bit of a trough up here, a little bit of a short wave. That's going to pass on by. That's going to help to yank this system a little bit to the northeast. That's the trough that California is getting impacted. We had thunder today. We had some cooler temperatures. Yeah, I loved it. And it's going to last for another week, it looks like here. And then there's another little bit of a lobe of spin down here in Southern California, and that's going to be ejecting into the southern high plains as we go into Wednesday next week. And you can see what that looks like here. See, there's a little bit of a perturbation here, some forcing along this boundary, especially on Tuesday and Wednesday. And that is why I do think there is going to be another enhanced risk out of this, at least for Oklahoma, into Kansas, as well as Missouri, down here where the SPC has it, because we have lift in the atmosphere. When you have instability, that doesn't mean you get thunderstorms. You have to have a source of lift or convergence at the surface. So a boundary is a source of lift, orographic, so topographical effects is a source of lift, and isotropical lift is a source of lift when you get warmer air overriding cooler air, because colder air is dense. That forces the warm air to rise over it, and that's isotropic lift. And then you got baroclinic ascent that occurs out of these troughs as well, and that's where you get falling heights. The air cools down aloft, and that helps to weaken the cap or allow instability to develop, especially when you bring in Gulf moisture like this underneath this flow configuration. Okay, that's going to continue with, again, a little bit of a pinch right there. See this pinch? This is where we're going to have showers and thunderstorms, and it really makes sense here on the GFS. And this would be 108 hours out. This is going to be valid for Wednesday night into Thursday, and as we go forward, that's going to continue. So it's not just about Monday. I'm very confident that Monday is going to be the worst day out of the week to see a prolific tornado outbreak, but don't forget about Tuesday and Wednesday. Those are going to be what I call elevated days to watch, not anything that would be out of the ordinary for right now. But things could change very quickly in the weather world here. But for right now, Monday is the worst day of the entire work week. And it's funny because, when you think about a work week, the worst day is always Monday, right? And then you have hump day on Wednesday. That means you're in the middle of the week, and then Friday is like, finally the week is over. And then usually Friday is like the easiest day of the week, right? So it's kind of like nature is being nice to you guys and saying, okay, we're going to get through this in the first part of the week rather than in the last part of the week, right? So it's going to be like a double doodah for your work week. Like, you're going to have to worry about severe weather, strong to intense tornadoes, along to go with hail and wind on your work day for Monday, believe it or not. And I hear schools are open. Why are schools open on a moderate risk day? Maybe they reserve those for high risks when schools are usually shut down for that. And it depends on the district in itself. So looking at the mid-level wind plot here at 500 millibars, yes, lots of upper-level wind energy that is going to overspread the warm sector here, especially south of the low. This is not particularly a dynamic system by any means. We're not seeing a jet stream that looks kind of like this, right? We're not seeing a trough that's undercutting where you get like very strong divergence here. Instead, we're seeing more kind of a neutrally tilted trough where we're just getting kind of within this embedded long wave where we have really strong southwesterly flow. And in some sense, this could despair the tornado threat at least to some degree, but because of the amount of lift, that is involved, the instability, that's going to be the thing. That's what's going to drive this risk primarily with the tornado threat. Now, looking at the 850 millibar chart here, yeah, this low-level jet on Monday morning is going to be pretty strong, and I'm not lying when I say, and this is going to be strong. 50 to 60 knot low-level jet overspreading Oklahoma, western Texas, into Kansas, into Nebraska here. Now, of course, this is capped, but there's a lot of wind energy above the surface here. And that's going to introduce a lot of wind shear. Of course, we're not concerned about thunderstorms here because there's a decent cap, maybe a little bit of an elevated storm or two. But wow, look at these winds. They are pretty dang strong. Right above the surface, not far actually, about a kilometer above, you get winds up to 60 knots already. And then this goes all the way into Iowa by Monday afternoon and evening. And look at the low-level winds here, right around 50 to 60 knots over Iowa, Wisconsin, northern Illinois, southeastern Minnesota, and they get even stronger. 03Z Tuesday, so this would be 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Yeah, that is a 70 knot low-level jet right here over Wisconsin. So you can definitely bet on a transitioning here to a lot of Boeing segments, maybe a very linear, long looped or orientation, that's what I'm looking for, of an MCS, QLCS maybe that's going to roll through here. And yeah, this is going to have a lot of wind with it. I think we're going to have a significant wind damage outbreak with this too, not just a tornado outbreak. Surface winds, you can name it right here by, say, 21Z Monday. So this is right around 4 to 5 p.m. In Central Daylight Time. Winds anywhere between 20 to 30 knots or so. So that kind of contributes to about 30 to 35-ish miles an hour at the surface over Iowa. And then over Wisconsin, we are in that range between about 20 to 35-ish miles an hour. Look at over Lake Michigan, surface winds there at around 45 miles an hour. That's pretty strong with wind gusts, probably over 50 to 60 there coming in out of the south. So some rough waters here in the northern end of Lake Michigan for Monday night into Tuesday because of that southerly flow. Moving over a fairly large wind fetch here. Yeah, Lake Michigan is very long from north to south. So when you get southerly flow, that fetch of water, you get a lot of high surf. Yeah, we talk about surf on northern Lake Michigan in this sense. And that's going to roll through. And that's, yeah, this is a fast mover. And then it moves into far eastern Canada by Wednesday. And then again, we'll have to watch this right here, where we do get southeasterly flow right here backing in the surface with low-level winds that are more kind of out of this direction as well. So that's why we are going to have to watch to see what the SPC does with that. We could have a 5% risk for tornadoes in subsequent outlooks here as we get closer, maybe a 10% if that, for tornadoes on Wednesday. Actually, yeah, that is Tuesday, not Wednesday. Got my days mixed up. All right, so I'm going to kind of waffle between different models here, just depending on how they act upon this. Some models are aggressive, so I'm just doing my best here, blending this all in. This is your mid-level lapse rates, by the way. So this is basically a temperature change with height. So if we click on a purple area here and run a sounding, this is 9.7 degrees Celsius. While that doesn't seem like a whole lot to a lot of you that are not weather enthusiasts, that is very, very steep, okay? The dry adiabatic lapse rate is roughly about 9.7 to 9.9 degrees Celsius. That is extremely, extremely steep. This is a very well mixed profile because when we look at this, let me go to full screen here. A little bit of a weather lesson here. I'm going to do a weather lecture maybe for my YouTube channel next year when there's not a whole lot going on. This year's already taken up for that. when it comes to severe weather season and put this in a playlist. But this is a inverted V sounding, okay? So you get a really well mixed profile. This is a dry line. So this is drier air coming off the Rockies, off of the New Mexico plateau, and it sinks and it warms like this, and we get drier air. This is dew points in the 20s. This is very dry sounding, yeah. Low-level relative humidity here, around 8%. So that's extreme fire danger because you also have winds here between 20 to 35 miles an hour, perhaps gusting over 50 miles an hour under this sense, and the well-mixed profile really tells us that. And man, look at the decape here, 1,500 joules, which means if we did get any elevated convection, it would pose a pretty big threat for damaging winds. All right, so that's a look at that. Let's go forward. And then, of course, when you get something that looks like this, these gray areas on a sounding, this is not a very steep lapse rate. That means it's not conducive for intense thunderstorms. Hail threat is usually marginal under those conditions. That's, so when you hear about this on the SPC, that lapse rates are very steep, they're referring to this. And we do not want steep lapse rates over a warm sector, that especially with dew points that are in the mid 60s to lower 70s, because that's the ending result of extreme instability. That's how you get it, because things interact with each other differently. You get drier air aloft, so you get an EML overspreading. You get the southerly flow that underscores the dry boundary layer above it, and you can really get a lot of instability. And I mean, sometimes if an EML is strong enough during, say, in May or June, we can get up to 7,000 or 8,000 joules of CAPE, thunderstorm juice, which is exceptional. If you put a supercell in that, under that environment, rest assured you will have DVD size hail easily without a issue, especially if there's a weak cap involved that allows these storms to explode more explosively. So going forward here, let's put this into motion. Yeah, see, we have a storm that pops up right here in this environment. This is, that's pretty concerning, okay? This is Sunday afternoon, so a big time hail threat here. We could see some of these storms posing a risk for 3 to 4 inch hailstones here in northern western Texas, especially from Lubbock, Texas, Amarillo, Texas, perhaps something to keep an eye on. And then as we go into, this is for Monday, we have really steep lapse rates in this environment. Now, I'm not going to click on a sounding here because the instability here is literally broken. So we're going to use the GFS for that here in a second. Excuse me. Have some raviolis and also some salad. Who likes raviolis? Let me know in the chat, then we'll talk about it. All right, so lapse rates here, very steep. This plume of an EML, say it with me. EML stands for elevated mixed layer. There's these weird meteorological terms. That's what we look for, okay? And it's basically dry Colorado rocky air coming off the Rockies, moving into the high plains. That's why severe weather events like this are possible, only mainly in the United States. They do happen in Australia and in other parts of the country, but primarily since the United States, the topography here in the lower 48 is very unique and home to these events because you get drier air from the west, moist air coming in out of the Gulf, and colder air coming in out of the north. And usually you get that meeting point. That's why we can get moderate risk days, we can get high risk days, and a lot of storm chasers even come from other parts of the country to do this for a living, and that's because it's a really big deal. Not this event probably, but some of the more historic events like 2011, 2019 of May 21st or May 20th. That's a memorable event down there in say Oklahoma and Texas. Now, looking at surface temperatures, surface heating is a big factor in all of this because when you have high dew points, you warm up that air mass sufficiently, we get a lot of instability. And you can see where that moisture is because temperatures do not warm up much, only into the low 70s during the day, whereas the drier air warms up faster. That is possible in the thermal terms. The thermal law is when air is very dry, it is able to heat up much faster, okay, and cool off much faster at night, versus more moisture in the atmosphere does not allow temperatures to cool off very quickly, because warmer air holds more heat. It's a heat absorber, just like the oceans, same principle. That's why land cools off faster at night than the oceans do, because of that principle. Okay, so as we go into Monday, surface heating here is going to be pretty sufficient. Look at this. We got temperatures in the 80s in Iowa. We got temperatures here in the low to mid 70s, mid to upper 70s to lower 80s. And then even down here, out ahead of the dry line, you can see it right here. We got temperatures even in the mid to upper 80s in central Texas. So it is going to be a very muggy, uncomfortable day on Monday for Austin, Texas, for San Antonio, Dallas, Texas, for Abilene, Texas. Yeah, you're going to be sweating like a pig out there, because it is going to be downright muggy because of the high dew points and the high temperatures as well. So looking at the dew point forecast, you can see, again, the Gulf moisture coming in right here. I'm not even going to say Gulf of America or Gulf of Mexico anymore, because you know what? What is it officially? Really, there's mixed bags on that. I think it's Gulf of America, but some of you say it's Gulf of Mexico. I'm going to ask you guys that question after I'm done with my briefing here. We're going to do a lot of interaction, I promise. And then as we move forward here into Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, those dew points are going to climb. I mean, this is nasty conditions here. Look at these dew points. Upper 60s in central Texas and Oklahoma. And then there is your dry line. Look at how sharp that dry line is. One part of the dry line, or the eastern side of it, dew points in the 70s. The other side of the dry line, dew points in the mid to low 20s. That's a very sharp dry line that is in place. And it's right in here is where I think we're going to have a big time tornado threat. Right along that triple point where we could have a strong to intense tornado out of this. I am not lying. I am not hyping this up. We saw this with the last severe weather event where we had a triple point set up in this area, and it resulted in some big time tornadoes. It really did in southwestern Iowa the other day when you get triple points, because when you get a surface low like this and you get a triple point, you augment the right front quadrant of a trough. So you actually pull in air out of the southeast underneath southwesterly flow that flows over this warm sector. So what you end up seeing is a very tightly wound streamwise photographs that are in this region. And that is why we tend, under triple point setups like this, behind a warm front or along this warm frontal boundary and along the dry line, and in this triple point sector, you can get some intense tornadoes if any supercell develops out of this. And that is my concern. We could have intense tornadoes, or we will have strong tornadoes, I'm sure. There's a very decent chance of that happening at this point, but there remains a possibility that we even get an intense EF3 or even at least an EF3 plus tornado. One or two of those on Monday in northern Iowa, as well as the tri-state area of Wisconsin. This is going to contribute to a lot of instability, and you can see all the red here indicates extreme instability all the way from northern Texas all the way to Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, into western Illinois, as well as much of Iowa. If we click on a sounding right here, okay, this is near Des Moines, Iowa. You can see, let's go back to the full screen. And so I can zoom in and show you all this. Yeah, this is a 3-inch hail analog. And what we see here, which, by the way, I'm going to do a weather lesson on this too. We're going to work on that for next year. But this is your environmental lapse rate. So anytime this is in the negative area, positive area, I guess, right? That's the positive area on a sounding. When that's warmer, the environmental lapse rate is warmer than the environmental temperature. Yeah, you get a lot of upward motion. These thunderstorms are explosive. They can produce some very large hail. And then it's a matter of, do you get speed shear or directional shear? And that is when we look at the hodograph here. And so our hodograph is telling us in this area, we have winds out of the south-southwest at around 20 knots, and then we go up to about 1 kilometer here. We get southwesterly flow, or almost due southwesterly, at around 43 knots, and then 2 kilometers up, we get that up to almost 50 knots. So this is a pretty decent veered wind profile, and you're ingesting pretty good streamwise vorticity all the way, or helicity values, all the way up to almost 2 kilometers above the surface. So this is deep here, and that's going to allow some right mover supercells at around 50 knots based on the ingestion and based on the upper level wind pattern that we're seeing. And given that this is also right moving, okay, this is left moving vector here. So we got the left moving vector here that's not very favorable. So this is going to favor mainly supercells, but it doesn't surprise me if we get a storm split here and there. I don't think that's going to happen under this environment based on that hodograph that we're seeing. What else do we need to look at? But yeah, this is a moist atmosphere, and the suggestion also here is too that D-Cape values of almost 1,000 joules. So that's basically the opposite of Cape. How much downdraft energy is exerted from the wet bulb temperature, which is located here at about 3 kilometers. That wet bulb temperature, not wet bulb, the environmental wet bulb temperature here is, what's that? That is about 60 degrees. So you can kind of think, yeah, you have a temperature of 80 degrees, but you can bring down temperatures down to even 60 to 64 degrees. Those are cold pools that are set up, which means this air mass is quite unstable. You get a lot of rising motion, downdraft motion. We can get some big time wind damage, possibly exceeding 70 to 80 miles an hour, especially when we get the low level jet increase in the evening hours there. And then as we go forward, you got some instability here, but it's really going to be zeroing in here. Again, right here, right in this area is where I'm really concerned for significant tornadoes, significant intense tornadoes perhaps. That's kind of what I've been predicting for a while now, that this area is going to have the moderate risk. And that's what we have. We have that out. Unfortunately, I always have to be correct, or at least as correct as it can be. All right, man, I took 48 minutes. I took 48 minutes in that discussion. Do you guys have any questions? I want to interact with you guys because, of course, that's part of these live streams. I'm not here doing all the talking and ignoring you guys, right? So interact with me. We have 200 people watching this live stream right now. So speak up. You know, what are your thoughts? Do you think the moderate risk is needed? Do you think it could be expanded? Do you think it will be smaller? Do you think we can go high risk? I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I really do. So, man, that was one heck of a discussion. But yeah, this is pretty significant though. I mean, man, a moderate risk this far north. This far north. I think they'll narrow it down to a high risk. You think so, Colleen? You think a high risk would be issued? If they throw out a high risk, if they even do, and I'm not predicting one right now, but if they were to put out a high risk, it is going to be in this area right in here, I think. It's going to be a very small one, maybe even shaped like this perhaps, because again, that triple point, you get backed, you get locally backed relative wind to the storm motion. So your storm is moving this way, but when you think about it, if the storm is moving at 50 knots and you get winds coming out of the south-southeast or southerly direction, Your relative storm motion is actually going to be due southeast, that inflow. So that is going to allow some that's going to allow for significant tornado development. But yes, I am not predicting a high risk right now because of the uncertainty. And it's because if we look at our models, and let's kind of look at those, there is convective uncertainties regarding the convective allowing, especially on the NAM. If we go over to our composite reflectivity and let's go over to our regional sector over here in Iowa, there is some uncertainty here. Actually, no, there is. This is actually putting it down pretty well. I was looking at this earlier. Yeah, see, there are some supercells that do develop, but it's a matter of how this is all going to evolve. There is some kidney bean-shaped storms right here locally over northern Iowa. And for the NAM to even show that, that's quite concerning. It's gonna be interesting what the HRRR model, the HRRR model, shows once that gets into range in the next few model run cycles, complete run cycles. We have a nice good confluent zone right here over northeastern Wisconsin that could also pose a threat for tornadoes as well. Morning convection in northern Iowa could prevent a high risk. Good point. Especially if there is that convection. Let's actually go back to that. On this model, though, there is not a whole lot of elevated convection that is anticipated here on the NAM. That's why I'm going to wait for the HRRR to come in. Once that gets closer, we will kind of get a general idea what might end up happening. There is some shower activity here, but it's not so widespread like the GFS. If we go and look at the GFS model, it's a different story here where it is showing storms. Actually, it's not showing it much here. Yeah, right here, it's showing a lot of it for Monday morning. But if we go to the NAM, it's not showing it at all. So that's going to be the thing. There's that uncertainty. If there is no convection here for the morning hours, which I do think there is, because there's a good warm sector that's going to be nosing in over this. So the NAM might be a little off on that side of things. The GFS has been showing that for a while now. So that might prevent such a high risk or high parameter space of severe weather. But if it does go high risk, it's going to be tornado driven. FYI, for those people that do follow the Storm Prediction Center, they do not ever go high for hail probabilities. Even so, if they go 60 sig for hail, it's hail versus tornadoes or wind. What's more impactful, right? Hail or tornadoes? And a lot of you are going to say tornadoes are more impactful, right? Than hail is. Even so, hail can hurt people, but it's, it takes a lot bigger hailstones to cause more significant damage. Something like 8 or 9 inches in diameter, which is impossible. If you get a 9-inch diameter hailstone, that will kill someone easily. That's like this big, about as big as my head, or even bigger than that. I'm doing very good, Michael Galantine. I live in Stanley, Wisconsin. I have a mom on oxygen and it's hard for her to move around. Should I have her placed in the basement early? Do you think we could have a tornado? Stanley, Wisconsin. So let me go to Stanley, Wisconsin here. Let me go to Google Maps. Sorry, I don't know every city. I am not expected to know every city because I am not from Wisconsin. Stanley, Wisconsin. So that's in the Eau Claire area. I would get her in the basement early rather than later, especially since it's hard for her to move around. For that sake, I would honestly recommend doing that, because if she is in a wheelchair, which it sounds like she is, it's going to take her a while. So if you, right when you get under a tornado warning, they should give you at least 30 minutes of notice, 30 to up to even 45 minutes of warning time. So use that time to get her in the basement, if there is one in Stanley, Wisconsin. But you know what? You have to hope for the worst, but you also have to hope for the best. So we have to hope that you don't have to go into that situation, right? But unfortunately, that looks to be the case here based on our models showing that convection Monday afternoon. You're very welcome, Guyana Bella. Jamison, how's Northern Indiana, South Bend looking for Tuesday? Can you take soundings for that area? Sure, let me take a sounding. Let me use my instability plot here from the GFS. So Big Bend, Big Bend? You said South Bend. South Bend, that's in the Notre Dame area. That's in Northern Indiana. So let's go and look at that. Man, there's not much instability Tuesday because that boundary is just to your south. 15Z, though. Let's look at that. Notre Dame area. 2-inch hail threat due to steep lapse rates. Those are right around 7.1 degrees Celsius. So that is steep enough to support at least quarter-size hail. Critical angles are not very ideal for tornadoes here, but an isolated spin-up cannot be ruled out. Maybe like a land spout of some sort. Yeah, maybe an EF0 tornado here or there, maybe an EF1 at the most, but I don't see any threat for strong tornadoes. Instability is decent, though. At least it's skinny large cape, so your ELs, which is the equilibrium level, is about 12 kilometers above the surface, which means these are going to be fairly tall thunderheads once they develop, but the instability here is not sufficient for like big hail monsters in the Notre Dame, South Bend, Indiana area. Show where a high risk would be plus the feature. So where I think the high risk, let me zoom in and let me use this sector here. So where I think a high risk, if, don't place my buts and ifs on this one, folks, all right? Don't lead me to this. Don't say, oh, David's been predicting a high risk. I am not currently forecasting one. But if there is going to be a high risk, if it does get issued in like the second to last day one outlook, it'd be kind of a last minute kind of thing here based on current evolution. I would say it would probably be over here. Hold on. It'd probably be over here. And that's not a really good pin to use. Shoot. I wish this gave me more options. Let's do this. So it would probably be... No, not that pin. Okay, let's use a... Okay, this is better. So I would think it would probably be right over here somewhere is where I think the high risk would be in a very small area because of that triple point, because we would get winds that do something like this relative to the store motion, and that could augment the helicity values. That can get spin going, especially south of Eau Claire into La Crosse in Wisconsin. So if anything, right here would be the area to watch for a possible upgrade in the second to last outlook, okay? It's going to come down to that. I don't think this is a high risk is going to be issued in their day two outlooks at all, period. It's going to be somewhere in the day one. Now, if we do get a high risk on this last day two outlook before they move into the day one period, I would be very, very panicked and shocked that they actually do that, because if they do that, then you know what's up. You really do, because that means a intense tornado outbreak. And the word intense is not used lightly, because that usually refers to EF3, EF4 tornado magnitudes under that environment. Did you address Kansas City area? If I missed, I'll go back. I did address Kansas City, not very much though. I do apologize. So Kansas City definitely will have a tornado threat. Excuse me, had raviolis for dinner. Those were so good that I overfilled my stomach over here. So for Kansas City, right now, my bets are on this, that the enhanced risk is going to be mainly hail driven, but don't be surprised if it is also a 10 sig for tornadoes, especially in that area. So like Olethe, we could get a 10 sig, also a 30 sig for hail. So that's going to be kind of the aspect, and probably a 15% sig for damaging winds, because not as much forcing, not as much. Actually, you know what? There could be enough wind energy to support a 30 sig for wind, something in that ballpark. But more of the wind threat down here is a bit more lower than areas to the north, where you have better jet stream dynamics. Actually, you know what? Yeah, because right down here, you're on the leading edge of where that jet speed max is. So most of the wind energy is going to be associated with this jet stream here at 500 millibars. And looking at the low levels, you know what, though? It wouldn't surprise me, though. It would not surprise me if there is a 30% for wind under that environment. What's up, Grizz8? How are you doing? Do you think the moderate risk could get expanded into northern Missouri if the SPC updates again? That is a tough question. Right now, based on, let me look at the where's my instability? Shoot, did I close the tab off? I think I closed the tab off. Oh my. So let me go back to that. By the way, thank you for that $2 donation. So let's go and look at that. So surface-based cape, because that's what the GFS only provides us with. So that area, let me look at northern Missouri here, and that is referring to D major scaling up. So looking at that, your hotographs are, and that is a big, large layer of 0 to 3 kilometer relative storm helicity. With the instability as high as it is, it could compensate for your SRH. Your deep layer shear is not really volatile for a moderate risk upgrade in that area. We're only looking at effective bulk shear of about 40 knots. So I don't think it's going to be warranted for that, but definitely a hail threat nonetheless. I mean, hail analogs here are about baseball size. So baseball size hail in this area is certainly a big threat in northern Missouri for your Monday. And for reference, let's go back to Missouri. You can see right there, which, by the way, this is my new layout of the outlooks, which, by the way, how do you guys like this a lot better than the traditional, what I used to use, weather belt, because you could actually get into cities here, which is really awesome. Yeah, Yeah, KCMO, Railfan, yeah, your area can certainly see tornadoes. If this gets a high risk, this would be the third high risk of the year. Yeah. I mean, that is ridiculous. Usually there's one high risk a year. In fact, the returning time. Let's go to the Storm Prediction Center. They have a little bit of a educational thing on that. Wait. Yeah, so it does show it here on their SPC page. You could find this on their homepage. That very intense storms your area may only experience once or twice in a lifetime. So you don't see high risks very often. And when high risks get issued, it's usually an intense tornado outbreak like we had in mid-March. We all remember that one, folks. That was prolific, right? Which, by the way, March has had the most tornadoes in numbers ever recorded. It broke an all-time record with the most tornadoes in March. And that is just from 2 high risks. Wait, 2 high risks? I can't even remember. There were 2 high risks. That's all I know. But yeah, once in a lifetime, then you get more moderate risks. Those are more common. Well, not very common, but then the lower the scale you go, the more common they get. So when you get a moderate risk, you need to take it seriously. You really do. I never covered the fire risk. My gosh. But you can then go to their website here and actually look at their conversion, and you can see here that never for hail do they go high, but they can go high for wind at day 2 or day 1 and day 2, but not for hail. Not for hail at all. Maybe they'll do that. I mean, with technology improving, maybe they will get to day 3 high risks. But if that happens, you hope you don't ever see one like that again. What's up, Jade? How are you? How is KCMO looking for Monday? KCMO, that is like Kansas City. Yeah, that's Kansas City. So what I was discussing about that, that's in here, Kansas City. It's right on the border there. 10 sig for tornadoes for sure. I think we are going to see strong tornadoes there. Maybe at least 1 or 2 strong tornadoes. And then, of course, the risk for large hail. Don't be surprised. I think it's going to go 30 sig in the next outlook. 30 sig for hail, 10 sig for tornadoes, and a 15 sig for damaging winds, I think, is what my personal opinion is. How about Waupaca, Wisconsin? And these weird names. Man, I wish I lived in Wisconsin, then I can learn all these. That's how the Waupakans say it, right? So Waupaca, Wisconsin, you're kind of in almost dead center. So you are like right in here. Man, you are close to that moderate risk. You are really close to that moderate risk. And we'll see if they extend that a little further to the east. But for sure, you are going to see tornadoes. You are going to see perhaps strong tornadoes. Big time wind damage. It's going to be mainly a wind damage threat for that area. I think less of a hail threat, but although those steepening mid-level lapse rates could support even a large, very large overnight hail threat into the Wausau Portage area of that region. Chicago is under a slight risk. Probably a 2% risk for tornadoes there, mainly a wind-driven slight risk, and maybe even a hail-driven slight risk there as well. Even so, I do not have Chicago. There's Chicago there on the map. That's where you have that slight risk. Which I am a little surprised they actually have 8 away at the slight risk a little bit. It's actually a little further north. They used to have it over Springfield and a little bit more in, what town is that? Kankakee. I hope I said it right, or did I not? And weird Illinoisan names. I know every name there except that one. Except that one. Kankakee. Okay, Kankakee. David, you should take a look at the 0Z HRRR immediately. It is bad. By no means. It's... I actually have not seen the 0Z. Is it already in range? Wait. So 2 days from today. Oh, it is. Oh, shoot. It is. Okay, so let's actually run through that. I didn't even realize that. Wait, we have Sunday and we have Monday. Yeah, it should be in range. So let's see what we got. Yeah, there's your elevated convection. So that clears the moderate risk pretty early. It doesn't look significant at all on here, but STP is probably what you said, right? You said STP. So let's look at the STP. Significant tornado parameter. Okay. Okay, Thomas. Yeah, 8.2. That is pretty high. That is pretty high. Let me view the sounding out of that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's a violent tornado parameter right there. Violent tornado. 0 to 1 kilometer SRH. Look at that. 0 to 1 kilometer SRH. 439 meters squared per second squared. Effective wind shear magnitudes of 66 knots. That is very substantial. That right there, because you have really high instability, 3,400 joules per kilogram of, actually about 3,000 joules of mixed layer CAPE under this environment. Actually, it's not really mixed here. It doesn't look like to be. So surface-based CAPE here of 3,400. Very little capping inversion, which you do need some capping to isolate things here. Man, this is a very, very alarming sounding. This is a violent tornado parameter space right here. That is pretty bad, and that is a PDS. Let me actually see what it looks like on College Do page, because the STP on, depending on what site you look like, might go overdo it. Just depending on. So what I like to do as a forecaster, learning moment, is I like to look at 3 different websites. Pivotal Weather is one of them. Call to Do page is one of them. And Weatherbell, which is a paid version. If you guys don't have Weatherbell, get it. It's a good website. It's a good modeling program that I like to use. But except it doesn't do the fixed layer STP, so it's going to probably show something out of the ordinary. So let's go to look at the 0Z. What does it look like here? Oh my. That's a 12.9, 13.5. Boy, 14.3 here. 14.3 here in northern. Man, you know what? Guess where I think the high risk would be placed too. Isn't that something, you guys? I mean, I said somewhere in this area, a high risk would. Oh wait, is this? Yeah, this is Iowa down here. Right in here is where the high risk would be in place, and look at where that is. So now, I want you all to understand that just because you see something like this does not mean we will have a violent tornado. All right, these are ingredients based on the deep layer vertical wind shear that the HRRR is picking up on, and the moisture that this is going to have with it, because we have high dew points and lots of energy, thunderstorm juice, these 3 things, okay? And favorable lapse rates. That's why the atmosphere is highly unstable and it's very sheared, okay? And in fact, if you click on what this means, our calculation of STP is slightly different than used at the SPC, so please use this with caution when comparing values. But it uses SB cape, it uses the LCL height, the 0 to 1 kilometer SRH, which is needed for tornadogenesis, right? That's what we refer to, not 0 to 3 kilometer SRH, and 500 bunkers, bunkers Richardson number, something like that. So it uses these three things to calculate the STP. These are what we call primitive equations of the atmosphere, and that's why you get values like this. So based on those aspects, it's coming out to a value that looks like this. And I don't blame you guys. This is very concerning, but it doesn't mean there's going to be a high risk. This doesn't mean it's going to be a violent tornado outbreak. It's also about coverage. So when we see things like this, let's go back and look at what the Doppler radar actually looks like. So let's go to surface and precipitation, and let's go and back and look at that. So let's see. We don't have convection in that area. So despite favorable conditions, we don't have that. Bulk wind difference. Okay, that's what it is. Thank you, Gabe. I thought it was bunker. There's a Richardson number that gets involved too, but I guess it's not calculated in that. But there's no convection here. This is only on one model though. But this is telling us as a forecaster that, yeah, the atmosphere is very conducive, very volatile for something like that. But doesn't mean it has to happen. Because let's look at the NAM nest model. The NAM nest is a lot different than that HRRR model. Looking at the wrap, I don't think the wrap goes that far out. Yeah, see here, it shows a cap. So if we click on this, right in this area, let's bring that up. This is all capped probably, which affects tornadogenesis. So let's wait until that loads. Yeah, see, this is capped. This is negative 80, about negative 80 to negative 100. And your photograph here is pretty wild, actually. So under this environment, I think this is underdoing it, I think. There's not much cap that I've seen in some high-res models. So therefore, there's going to be that concern. Now, over here in... So there's placement differences where the best conditions are. So this is northwestern Iowa where we have really high STP values in this area. Sorry if I'm skipping some questions here. We'll get back to those. This is more concerning. Now, something to note as well. I just clicked on something that is really high too. A 12.1 doesn't mean you get a violent tornado. This looks pretty concerning. That's very classic, but it's also veering back with height, so that might make things a little bit interesting with supercell structure. There's a little bit of a cap here as well, not very strong, but not very weak either. So that's going to be a limitation. But definitely some curved, streamwise photographs that are in this region from western Iowa into southeastern Minnesota and much of Iowa. And it's showing up here as a tornado, but not particularly dangerous. But I would assume that we will have a strong tornado in this area regardless of what we're seeing. Also, we have to look at subsequent model runs as well. So this is just the first run that shows this. So it's nothing to be concerned about. But it is something that the SPC is going to have to consider, because now if it does stay high like this, and if we do get supercells in this environment, they might have enough data to pull off a high risk in this environment, in this small spatial space. But again, it's confidence and coverage, not intensity all the time. But yeah, this is something to take note of. And thank you, Thomas, for bringing that up. I do appreciate that. Man, that's why I have you guys as the audience to let me know about this. I did not know the HRRR already is rendering out this far. It is 2 days, so 0Z is in tonight. That goes 2 days out from that. So that's why we're seeing Monday now. So all the models pretty much have eyes on Monday afternoon now. But I did want to clarify, this does not mean you will have a violent tornado. This does not mean you will have a tornado at all. This just means the parameter space, and hence its name right here. Okay. Right up here, parameter, meaning it's a type of a parameter that forecasters use to see based on shear, instability, and moisture how things come together. Okay. It's just basically giving storm chasers that, whoa, STPs are pretty high in this area. We got to really focus on our storm chase in this area because of the risk for tornadoes, you know, the conditions there. David, how will Des Moines be on Monday? Des Moines, Iowa. So Des Moines, Iowa is under a moderate risk. That is a guarantee at this point. And if we did use the HRRR model, yeah, you guys are in. You're in some dangerous. You're in a dangerous situation on Monday, for sure. But when we do look at the HRRR here, since it is in our eyes, yeah, it's in my eyes now. We are going to be looking at that. So this doesn't go out that far, but here as it being based on now. So the HRRR, this is the first run, so we don't know how this is going to look in the next couple of runs because each run is different. But right now, okay, just based on this, at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time, Des Moines, Iowa looks good. There's no thunderstorms in Des Moines, Iowa at 7 p.m. But there is some storms here that might kind of move across by early Monday. And then, of course, maybe some elevated convection here. That's that warm front that is going to be advecting right in across Iowa into Wisconsin. And again, these storms up here are elevated, so there is no concern for tornadoes. If anything, it's going to be a hail threat. Maybe quarter-size hail, maybe marble-size hail, that sort of thing. And some gusty winds, perhaps 40 to 50 miles an hour, and a lot of lightning, because high-based convection is notorious of producing a lot of lightning. What about Dubuque, Iowa? So Dubuque, Iowa, good thing I have the city's overlay here. So for Dubuque, Iowa, on the HRRR, definitely some elevated convection on Monday morning. But as we go into Monday afternoon, let's actually go to the NAM 3 kilometer here. Yeah, so see, there's differences in the modeling. NAM 3 kilometer has storms over Des Moines and Dubuque, Iowa. Even so, it's not showing much in the way of storminess. You got to always consider that this is simulated, and I think there will be more than what this is showing. And then this is right around 11 p.m. Central Daylight Time. You're getting more showers and storms. Some of these will be significantly severe. All significant severe hazards, including strong tornadoes, will be a thing. What's up, Doug Quid? How are you doing? What's up, David Potter? But now, for a lot of you that are watching this live stream, we have to understand too that one model will show this, the other model will show this. The GFS has a different solution. We have to come up with an average, and that's basically your forecast. So there is higher consistency that a warm front is going to be moving through, and it's going to generate elevated convection, what we call isotropic lift, over the cold boundary layer over Wisconsin before the warmer air noses in. That's going to trigger elevated stuff. And then once the warmer air is in, it's unstable, especially with surface heating on Monday. That's when you get the concern here for a prolific tornado outbreak. You really like the NAM? I think the NAM right now is a bit more realistic. Not that the HRRR is not realistic, just because of what it's showing. I mean, this is the NAM 3 kilometer. This is the HRRR. See the difference? Like, there's nothing over Iowa. And when you go back to the NAM, there's a little bit more than what that HRRR shows. So we are going to look at the worst case scenario because of what the SPC is saying. And actually, we can look at the discussion here in a little bit. I also really wanted to briefly touch upon for the fire danger. Not going to spend any time on this at all. For those people that are in Las Cruces, El Paso, Texas, if you're in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, there is an extreme risk for fire danger. Explosive fire growth is expected tomorrow over these areas. Dew points in the single digits with 30 to 40 mile an hour winds with gusts over 50 to 60 miles an hour. Any fire that starts in that area is going to grow out of control extremely fast. So keep in mind, for a lot of you that are maybe watching this in Albuquerque, New Mexico, or say if you are watching this from El Paso, it is going to be a really windy day tomorrow. Hot, well, pretty warm. I wouldn't say, well, warm to hot, dry and windy is what we're going with. By the way, if you guys are new to the channel and you do like the content, be sure you do subscribe to the channel. I am sorry about my decomposure that I had a couple of nights ago. I did not like. I feel bad the way I acted. I really do. And actually, what woke me up is Mitch West Weather. If you guys don't know who Mitch is, and actually a couple of other YouTubers complaining about the same thing about very little view count. So I'm wondering if something happened on YouTube or something, or if it's just that there was not a lot going on. But boy, the moderate risk really grabbed people's attention. It really did. What about Grand Junction, Iowa? So Grand Junction, Iowa. It's not even on here at all. So Grand Junction, Iowa. We're going to get to questions here for a while here. So I get to everyone's question as much as we can here. So Grand Junction is near Des Moines. Yeah, you are in a moderate risk. Oh, yeah. You're literally like right on the leading edge of that moderate risk for Monday. Which, by the way, if you guys want to follow me on TikTok, I do have TikTok, and I am going to be making a TikTok. Actually, you know what? Man, I am going to have... Should I do a morning upload, you all, for tomorrow? Let me know in the chat. If you guys say yes, I will do that, but I am going to have to do TikTok. Wait, no. Yeah, I might do TikTok. We'll see. So yeah, I'll probably do a morning update then for YouTube for you guys. That will cover Sunday because Sunday afternoon I won't have an update at all. Sunday I'm pretty much booked. Madison, Wisconsin. Could the moderate risk get extended there? I am not surprised. I mean, that's right there. Yeah, it would be close. It's going to be a close call for Madison, Wisconsin. It is going to be close. But yeah, this is my TikTok page right here. Right here is my TikTok page. I'm going to have to change my profile picture. I mean, I had that for a while, and I didn't get some good reviews on it, so I'm gonna have to switch that out. Probably I'll put my my main YouTube channel profile on there. But yeah, this is basically my TikTok. I have 924 followers. Whoa, burning up on there. I'm blowing. Also, one quick thing, the name change on YouTube, I've asked my family about it. There is still a mixed signal. It is going to be a hard decision. So that is still up in the air about a name change that is in the possible works right now. Thank you, Jamie R. I do appreciate it. I'm glad you like the channel a lot. I'm really, I appreciate it. I really do. What do you think will happen in the Twin Cities? So let's go to Twin Cities, right? Twin Cities, Minnesota. I thought it was in Iowa. So yeah, so for that area, I think it really depends on where the triple point sets up. Where the boundaries interact in that area, that's a little bit more uncertain, but for sure, based on the SPC, on their wording, I think a intense tornado in the metropolitan area of Twin Cities and Minneapolis, St. Paul is certainly a likelihood at this time. In Rochester. So yeah, Monday is looking pretty dangerous for you there. Make sure you have your weather radio on, you guys. Make sure you do. David, I got a question. Do you want to take a look at the Colorado State University severe weather forecast machine learning algorithm probabilities for severe weather on Monday? See what you think. Can you send me a link to that, Gabe? I don't know. I don't know how to actually get over there. CSU severe. Oh, wait, maybe it's already, maybe I'm able to bring it up. Am I? Why is it not popping up on me? I don't know if it's down. Yeah, it's down. It's not working. Yeah, it's not working on my end. It's like blank. It's literally like, yeah, it's not coming up at all. It is not working. Wait, is this 1916? Whoa, why am I on 1969? Yeah, it's not working at all. I cannot get it. Oh, wait, there it is. Woohoo, we got it. We got it. So can we blow this image up, or do we have to actually zoom in? I guess we have to zoom in. So, ooh, there is a small, wow, there is a small, very small, I don't know if you guys could even see that. There's a very small grape purple 60.7. Wait, 0.607. That's a 60 sig. A 60 sig for severe weather. What's up, Mike? How are you? You're very welcome, Gabe. Yeah, so I don't know. It is very similar to with what the SPC actually has, so it looks pretty reliable, but a 60 sig right there, a little bit of a spot. that seems a little much, you know? When it comes to forecasting, I don't use websites unless they're like part of NOAA. So like, you know, like the SPC I'll use, the CPC, the WPC I'll use, pivotal weather model websites, you know, because who knows how accurate this algorithm thing is. I mean, it could be overdoing it or it could be underdoing it too. But this is... Yeah, this is the SPC right here. Yeah, this is the SPC version. And then this is it. Does pretty good, though. I mean, comparison-wise. But yeah, 60 sig. Holy cow. If there's a 60 sig, that is definitely a high risk. Either, well, it would be a moderate risk if it's hail-driven. But if it's tornado-driven, it's going to be a high risk. That would be pretty... That's a big, big deal. That's a big deal. A 60 sig is a bit much, though. That's very aggressive. A NATO cast as well. I don't think NATO cast has anything out on X. Let's see, though, if NATO cast does. Okay, yeah, they're not going to put anything out that far out. It's day 3. Yeah, it's day 3, so they're not going to bother. Which, by the way, how do you guys like my new banner on my YouTube channel as well as on X? Pretty cool, huh? Pretty stinking cool. All right. Day 2 could be concerning. Yeah, day 2 is, there's a little, actually, I haven't seen day 2. Does it look concerning? I've been really hyper-focused on what Monday brings. Day 2 doesn't look that bad. Today looked worse with that 5%. Wow, way far west. Tomorrow is mainly a hail-driven slight in that widespread area. So, therefore, it's not really tornado-driven. It really isn't. Which, by the way, if you want to get the outlooks that look like this, this is the website right here. This is the website you can check out, and I'm actually going to go back here. So this is the SPC, but it's a different version of to visualize things. You could actually pick your state. So if you actually go here, you can go to FEMA, FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Association, or something like that. And then you can pick different areas for the forecast. So if you click on an area down here in Texas, this is what the outlook will look like. And it should pop up with cities. This does take a while to upload or load, though. It's a slow website. And then, yeah, okay, this does bring up cities. That's really helpful, actually. And you can click, and that's what it comes up with. Versus the SPC Outlook, their layout is good. They're actually their homepage. So if we go to the SPC, it's good in some sense, of course. You got to give them good credit. But when you go to your cities, I mean, you have to really zoom in. You have to literally zoom way in to get more cities. Well, zoom in like this, like make the web page bigger. But actually on here, you could physically zoom in to state levels, National Weather Service regions as well. And then you just say, oh, I want to see what it's like in my state for day 3. We'll go to, so we would go to day 3 and click on Iowa, let it load, and it should load that up for us. Give it some time. Again, you got to have patience when using this. It's not very fast. And then you could actually click on the thumbnail and it pops up like that. And that's how you get. That's what I've been using in my TikToks, actually, because it has the date up there for you and everything. And you can see that, and it gives you a good graphic here, what the colors mean and everything. And the hatched area is at 45 sig. That makes sense. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. The 0Z sounding, Justin Langford, right? Which model are you referring to, though? If you're referring to the HRRR, I think the HRRR is going a little aggressive, especially since it's the initial run. I wouldn't put much fret on that right now. It's still, I mean, no model is that aggressive except the HRRR. But yeah, if you guys are finding this information very helpful, informative, and detailed, please subscribe to the channel. I will probably have a morning video out. It depends on what the outlook looks like tonight. Probably will, just for the sake of it. But of course, we're going to condense it all. Try to make it at least 15-ish, 20 minutes long. Because, you know, who wants to watch a 50-minute long video? No one does, huh? Next Monday Outlook will be issued at 1 a.m. Eastern time. Wait, right? Oh, no, that is Central. No, wait. Yeah, that's Central time. Quite late. I'll have to see. I will have to see about that. Kind of worried for my area. Yeah, this is big deal. This is a big deal, that moderate risk. And I was not shocked by it at all. I was not. I was expecting a moderate risk. That's why you saw my recent thumbnails, like severe weather outbreak coming, because the setup was there. It was literally there and is poised for a moderate risk. And that's what we have. We have a MDT. Not the first or the last time we'll see one. Which, by the way, well, not really moderate risk related. For those that are tuning in, hurricane season is around the corner, right? Hurricane season is around the corner. And I did want to show you all really quickly. We're good, transitioning here a little bit before I do end it. Is not that hurricane outlooks, right? No. Dang it, where did it go? Sure hope I did not delete it. I hope I did not delete it at all. Okay, no, I didn't. This hurricane season, for live streams, I'm going to look into getting another computer monitor. I am going to look into getting a new computer monitor. So I have 4 monitors, and one is going to be dedicated for live cameras during a landfall. And on top of that, we're going to be providing a lot of information during our outlooks. I mean, look at all of this that I am going to be providing. I am taking the hurricane season into my own hands. We are going to school you all. We're going to do some education 101 during my video updates, video discussions. And of course, the expectation is that we will be doing live stream discussions every afternoon, at least 3 days prior to a landfall. In the U.S., of course, and even for the Windward Islands, Leeward Islands, the Dominican Republic, as well as Jamaica, the Virgin Islands, that sort of thing, and we will do an all-nighter, okay? I am going to take that into consideration. I'm going to try to get a team together to make that happen, where we just stream all night long, at least 24 hours prior to a landfalling hurricane. Especially if it's a Cat 5 or a Cat 4, we will be providing that information in real time. So I am very excited to present that all to you here on the channel. Because a lot of you do like my hurricane forecasts and my winter forecasts. Based on my audience and everything, you guys really do enjoy that. So we're taking it up to level 5. Okay, we're taking this up to a whole new level. And I'm not saying that for my ego. I'm not trying to use my ego here. I'm literally going to have a 4th monitor. I'm going to try to get one. It's an LG 4K monitor, and it's going to be up here probably, and it's going to have all of these live cameras. We're going to run at least 10 live cameras with a radar imagery. We're going to do a lot. It's going to be insanity. It's just going to be insane on how much we are going to be able to do with another monitor. So, yeah, if you guys are here just for the severe weather too, that's good because, well, I'm building up a credibility audience, but boy, hurricane season is my strong point. Everyone tells me that. Everyone does. And you know what? I will accept that. I'll be like, thank you. I appreciate that. Because yeah, we're going to the extreme. I repeat, I'm going to find at least 10 live cameras prior to a landfalling hurricane. Along to go with radar imagery, live weather station data, live recon data. Watch my live streams on the hurricane season last year. You will see what I do, and I'm gonna get a team together. I am going to get a team together, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great. But stressful too, you know? Yeah, Tanya, you'll have 100,000 subs if you do that. Well, yeah, that's a whole point, right? Growing on YouTube and, letting you all know about severe weather, hurricanes, and winter storms. Of course. But yeah, I am going to try to do a 24-hour live stream before a landfall. Well, probably not exactly 24 hours because I want to cover parts of the landfall as well. So let's just say, sorry if I'm going off topic here. So let's just say, which by the way, Gulf of America, it is a thing. All right. So if you guys tell me it's not Gulf of America, David, it's Gulf of Mexico. Look it up on Google, Gulf of America. It's there. It's literally full screening this so you can see. So let's just say between tropical storm is here or it's probably over here and it's going this way and you have a day to get ready. I'll probably go live here so that way I can still be live even after it makes landfall. So that way I cover the entire event more than just doing it from here all the way until here. If needed, if it's a Cat 5 hurricane at landfall, then we would probably do a 36-hour live stream. That would be 2.5. Wait. Yeah, that would be 2.5 parts. 2 full 12-hour streams with a third one that would be that would actually be partial. That would be a 6-hour. Oh no, wait, that would be a 12-hour. Wait. Yeah, that would be 3 full parts. Yeah. That's why if I do disappear for a little bit next week, that's probably one of the reasons why, is I am getting everything together for hurricane season. I am getting every stinking crap. I don't even want to cuss. I'm not going to cuss, but I almost did. But yeah, it's going to be crazy. But how's everybody doing tonight? Happy Saturday. I am sorry about the the threatening message that I did post a few days ago saying I'm deleting my channel, I know that was not me. That was not me at all, and I don't intend doing that again. I really don't. But yeah. Believe me, you guys, I say stuff, but I really don't mean it. And that's going to probably confuse you guys. So, I'll say this to get attention, and I'm being open and honest about it. Sadly, that's just how it works with me sometimes. I'll just say stuff to get attention. Hey, Psalm, how are you doing? Tanya, that's wishful thinking. We will see hurricanes in 2025, no doubt. In fact, the Weather Channel is predicting 9 or 10 hurricanes. Yeah. So, the fact that you say, I hope we don't have any hurricanes in this year's hurricane season. I love you, Tanya. Thank you. I'm glad you wish for no hurricanes, but that's not happening. I think we're going to see there's a 1 billion% chance we will see at least one hurricane this year. Yeah, Jamie R. Yeah, I'm doing a lot better though. I'm very tired though from it though. It killed my energy. But also because I was uploading 2 videos yesterday and 2 videos the previous day, and still doing it today, 2 content pieces, and then tomorrow finally back to 1. I guess that makes up for Monday because I will not be available at all on Monday. I am very sorry, folks, because this is what's going to happen. Monday at 11 in the morning, I am going to the dentist and I'm going to have a crown. Yes, they're going to literally fix my tooth because it is cracked. It is cracked. I shouldn't be saying this on stream, but it is cracked. And the dentist says it is starting to cause problems to where it's cracking even more. So now what has to end up happening is I have to go to the dentist and have a crown put in. That takes a couple of hours, and then literally after that, I have work from 3 p.m. until midnight, and so I just won't be available at all on Monday. If anything, I do a post. That's the content that you'll probably get, unfortunately. Well, fortunately to a lot of you. Oh, I know, KCMO Railfan. Oh, yeah. Dental visits are not good. But you also want to know what I don't like doing either. You guys could probably guess where I don't like to go. I don't like going to the dentist, but what do I not like to go and who I don't like to see? You guys would probably guess, nope, it's not work. It's not work at all. I don't like going to the eye doctor. I do not like going to the eye doctor. And you guys would probably guess why. Why does David not like going to the eye doctor? Doctor's office is up there, but it's not the thing I don't like to do. Actually, they're tied. I don't like going to the doctor because they always freak out with my blood pressure. My blood pressure is always high when I go and see when I go to the doctor. It's usually like 180, sometimes 175 over like 95 or 100. You read my mind, Psalm. Yes, I hate my eyes being dilated. I do not like that. I do not like that at all. And where they shine a light in your eye, no. That's why I don't like going to the eye doctor. But my grandma, or I was not really forced, but to make an appointment, and I don't know when I'm going to see them. Well, we haven't really made an appointment yet, but we're going to have to make one soon because my vision is really bad. I can see things up close really well, but when I look at things really far, like really far, it's very blurry. It is really, really blurry. Like, let's do this. I can't read the SPC Outlook at all. It's very hard to read. It's like I have to squint. It's because I'm nearsighted. It's because I'm always on my computer. There was one day I was on the computer for like 20 hours. And my family was like, get off that computer right now. You've been on that computer all freaking day doing nothing but doing this and doing that. I'm like, I'm sorry. I always tell myself I'm going to run, take a run, like go outside and get some air, but I don't. I just don't. No, Psalm, I don't have high blood pressure at all. It's just when I go and see the doctor. It's white coat syndrome. I can't control it. It's involuntary. It really is. It really is. All right. I think you guys are abandoning me. You guys are leaving me. Well, I'm just kidding. A 30% risk of tornadoes, L is saying there is a very slim chance. Now that I looked at the models, I wouldn't be surprised. It's not going to be issued on the day 2 outlook, so don't expect it. If it gets issued on the day 2 initial outlook, then I'm literally going to be like, I'm not going to work on Monday. I'm going live. But I would probably miss part of it because like the whole, yeah, because the crown is going to take like about a couple of hours to do, so it would be pretty hard. Well, I could actually go live if it did go high because it wouldn't be until like late afternoon or evening. Yeah, Tanya, I don't think anyone's available for that. I can't stream every risk. I'm sorry. It's not. I'm not doing that on purpose. I am not. But like, I always ask myself, like, why in the heck? Like, this has to happen when I'm like completely busy on Monday. Like, if it would have happened like on Thursday or Friday next or this week, it would have been perfect because I don't have anything going on. Oh yeah, L. Oh yeah, moderate risk is just as bad as a high risk. But, well, in theory, when it comes down to a categorical level, moderate risk is not as bad as a high risk, but it, if it overperforms, it could be as bad, if not worse, than a high risk. But love you guys a lot, and I really hope you guys are safe in this because, man, this is not pretty. Not pretty at all. Not pretty. I guess. Okay, when is the next... I need to get into the shower, actually, before I make my next video. Thank goodness I do not have to get up at 7 in the morning tomorrow. I could actually sleep in until like 9 in the morning. Because I'm not up on stage tomorrow, so that means I could make a video tonight and still get enough sleep. But after that, I'm going to have to go to bed, of course, and then wake up fresh and bright. So day 2, let's see the day 2. When's the next day 2 outlook? It is scheduled for 11. Shoot, in another hour, it's going to be out. In another hour, and I'm just going to keep all of this here. Basically, my video is what you see. It's already ready to go. It's just a matter of... But you know what? The HRRR is going to be... It's not going to be out yet. It's not going to be out yet. That's why I hate daylight saving time. because your HRRR model now runs like after midnight instead of like 11. It starts like at 11, but it starts at midnight, so it ends up being a lot later. That's why I don't like daylight saving time. I like standard time a lot better because models come out earlier. If they can just abandon stupid daylight saving time, that would really make me happy. Is that Bionica hand? I just got notified on my iPad over here that I just hit 100,000 views on TikTok. Holy cow. Man. TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. I'm very curious what the day 2 risk will be, you're asking, L. Yeah, same with me. I like your profile name. It's just L, meaning low pressure, right? Where are you going to track? You're going to help to increase lift and southerly flow. Matthew! What's up? Matthew! Hey! How are you doing? I know, Matthew. I've been really busy too. You know what my night has looked like, Matthew, over the last couple of nights? 1 hour of sleep. 1 hour of sleep. That's my bedtime. I go to bed at 6 in the morning, and I get up at like 7:30 in the morning. Yeah. Yeah, 1 hour of sleep. And to make matters worse, I got 30 minutes of sleep today. Today was the least amount of sleep that I got, to where I was so tired that I did not function very well today. Let's go. I had 2. Yeah. I am right now, and I have a chart for this, Matthew. It's called the Sleep Oscillation Index. And right now, I'm in a strongly negative phase of that index right now. I've been in a negative phase of that index for the last 3 months, and I'm hoping the projection here is by the time we go into May, I'll be in a strongly positive index where I get at least more than 12 or 13 hours of sleep. So during the positive phase of the index, I end up getting 12 to 15 hours of sleep, and I'm only awake for like 5 or 6 hours out of the day. Yeah, Matthew, which by the way, you're a moderator. Welcome aboard. So what are your thoughts? So my thoughts, Matthew, is based on the synoptical setup on this. So my concern about this, Matthew, is that surface flow. So if we actually go, let's zoom in. Yeah, let's go back here and look. So see this surface flow right here, and let's go to our winds. Let's go to our surface wind. Come on, load. So it is going to be here, depending on what model you look at. I think the GFS model does a bit of a better job at resolving the wind pattern. I don't know. We have our differences probably on what model we choose. But what I'm concerned about is if we get winds that curve like this and they back locally, like right along this, oops, my pin is not here working. Right along this dry line and right out of ahead of the warm front, and it's right in this zone where we could have a where we have significant backed winds at the surface and they veer out to the southwest and the south-southwest in the 1 to 3 kilometer layer. If that is able to happen, if we get a supercell in this environment, we could have a long tracked intense tornado threat, especially from right about over here. So in this dynamo, in this paradigm, is where I think we're going to have probably a good shot at seeing a strong tornado, at least, right in this area. Because again, if we get any supercells, if it's even 1 or 2 or 3 of these little guys that develop and they go like this, man, they are going to be long tracked and they are going to be strong to perhaps intense EF3 plus magnitude. Might even see a EF4 plus tornado because of the instability. The shear is gonna be there, okay? And the HRRR shows some decent shear vectors. Actually, the HRRR is going ballistic on that. Actually, let's go and see that. Yeah, so here it is. Oops, come on, work with me, HRRR. So if we go looking at this right here, it doesn't show it much here. This is going to be the area where we do get enhanced backing like this, especially once the low-level jet picks up, is where I think we're going to have a pretty big tornado threat. Because when you think about, when you even get south-southerly flow or south-southeasterly flow, relative to the storm motion, you get actually southeasterly relative storm inflow, southeasterly, that gets ingested. And so when you see that, when you have that, that's why I like Cameron Nixon's supercell hypothesis theory, is he uses storm relative motion over absolute storm motion, which is assuming that the storm is not moving very fast or whatever it is, and you're just looking at the raw wind data. This helps us forecast tornadoes really well, and I think with his theory, we could have a strong an EF2 plus EF3 plus tornado in this area where I've circled in. Yeah, Cameron Nixon and Chris Broyles. Chris Broyles nailed that high risk, by the way. A big, huge clap, a round of applause to him. But Cameron Nixon's really good. He's not at the SPC, but he's like a supercell nerd genius. Like, look him up on YouTube. Cameron Nixon. He is just like really good with his supercells. Like, he'll look at each photograph and say, okay, this photograph looks like this. This is the supercell that you could end up seeing. But yeah, my thoughts are, Matthew, that does a high risk look possible? It is not out of the realm of possibility, especially if Broyles takes into the backed wind profiles, if he does his forecast or if he's scheduled to, and if he kind of goes with what I'm saying here, and we get backed winds like this, and we get a supercell that is right moving dominant against that flow, we could have a violent not a violent, but an intense tornado, because you have the instability that is going to be in place. In fact, if we take a look at that instability right now, we're going to look at surface base cape. Yeah, 3,000 joules. Look at this, even close to 4,000 joules. So it's going to be about the instability here that is going to really stretch, vorticity stretching of these updrafts. Because you're stretching things like taffy, and with very intense updrafts, you're able to converge that, and with that wind shear, you're able to get the mesocyclone to rotate more efficiently. And so that's why I'm thinking right here is where I'm really concerned, this tri-state area right up here. Yeah, not until day one. I do agree with you on that. Yeah, it's going to be the second to last day one, probably not even on the initial day one. It's going to be like a mezzo discussion upgrade, I think. Like we saw, man, when was the last time we saw something like that? There has been so many days. I got to take notes. I literally got to print out these outlooks and just tape them all up behind me on the wall. That's what I'm going to decorate my wall, I think. So any upgrade or unexpected upgrade, I'm going to actually have to put on my red wall back here. Last one was April last year, our only high. Yeah. And this year we could have three. We could have three high risks. Only if we get a high, if we get a small. I heard your thoughts there, Matthew, that small high risk is on the table, but I'm not as confident about this high risk for this event as I would be for what we had in early April, because early April was pretty bad, actually. In fact, that Friday, it's going down in my memory lane book. I don't understand how the SPC did not go high risk that Friday before, because we had just over 100 tornado reports. I mean, it was just insane. All right, what is it like for Chicago? Sorry about that. So for Chicago, it's a slight risk. It's going to be a slight risk for that area. That's what it's showing up there, at least for right now. We'll see. We'll see what they do. But yeah, I'm glad you're here, Matthew. By the way, I like your stream overlay. I like the little bar on the bottom where it has the warnings. See, I want to get something not similar to you, Matthew, but something that's automated, because I can't show you guys it here, but I have my total warning count. That's what it is. So every time we get a radar indicated tornado warning or a confirmed or a PDS or a tornado emergency, I actually have to manually go in there and change it without it being automated. And it is so annoying. It really is annoying, by all means. And so, it just makes it really does make it difficult. I don't know if you're still here, Matthew. Can you check Tuesday for Central Indiana? Sure. Do we have Central Indiana on here? Yes, we do. So for Central Indiana, under a slight risk. And no, this is not going to be, this will be included in my next video, but it is not going to be the updated version because I am not waiting until 2:30 in the morning. Oh, wait, no. You know what? No, day 3 is out at 12:30. So I might be able to pull something off of that. Maybe I will. But man, I got to get to bed a lot earlier. I cannot be doing this where I go to bed at 6:30 in the morning, especially tomorrow since I am going to be working in the afternoon. I have church in the morning. I am not going to be able to get any rest. So I will need sleep tonight. But yeah. Man, this is 2-hour stream. You guys, your interaction, you guys. See, this is why I like so many people in my live streams, because I could actually, the chat is alive. It's more active than if it was like, if there's like 30 people watching. So thank you guys for tuning in. I am going to be headed out though. There's not much more to talk about. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it. I'm on the ball. I'm on the ball. But yeah, I have a TikTok page if you guys want to check that out. It is Weather Schlot Dog 1995. Again, that is Weather Schlot Dog 1995. I'm really blowing up on there, so I am going to be doing a lot of updates on there over the next couple of days. Not tonight, probably, because, again, I do need to get some rest. That outlook is pretty much valid for a while. Evidently, it's got 100,000 views, so evidently people really like it. So be sure to check that out. All right. Have a good night, you guys. And I will see you guys here in the morning at 5 in the morning. Okay? 5 in the morning. What did I just say? 5 in the morning, Pacific Daylight Time. That will be 8 in the morning, Eastern Time. Wait, no. 5. Yeah, 8 in the morning, and then 7 in the morning, Central Standard Time. Or not standard, daylight time, excuse me there. That's when I will have my next video out. All right, I'm going to try doing more morning videos. That's probably what I'm going to be only able to do this week. So afternoon videos are probably not going to happen this upcoming week because my schedule that I have in place this whole week, just the afternoons are going to be packed and jammed. So therefore, morning videos are probably the only resolution to things at this point, just to keep content going on the channel. But anyways, see you guys here in the morning tomorrow for your Sunday. Have a great night, and I'll keep you guys updated on what the SPC shows in my next Outlook tomorrow morning. Peace out! Share, like, and subscribe. Okay? Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell icon. It really helps out a lot. Peace out.